Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fem Tell All podcast. My name is Madison Bellissimo.
And I'm Ruth Devereaux. Every time.
Every time. And we are
It's the only way to say my name.
I love it. It's one of our
say
friends.
it flat. I mean, Devereaux. Like, it feels very boring. Devereaux.
Ruth Devereaux.
Devereaux.
Devereaux. Well, it's not a question.
Sometimes.
Is it? No, one of our friends, Ari. Well, you've met her briefly.
Yeah.
Or have you met Ari?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, hi, Ari. She listens.
I feel like I know her. I feel like I've heard great things about her. Yeah.
She said every time she listens, she goes, Madison Bellissimo and Ruth Devereaux. She's like, I listen to it every time. Anyway,
hello.
Hi, guys. Happy
We digress.
You're here. So happy you're here.
Always happy.
Always happy. And today we are covering, what does feminism mean to you?
Yeah.
Which is such a loaded question.
It is. I think that what I've seen in the negative spectrum of how people talk about feminism online is like this very stark of like, oh, feminist women are like this and they're like this and they don't like men and they hate this and da da da. It's just not true. Mm-hmm. I think you have two feminists sitting here in front of you, and the way we
Three.
Yeah. Three, sorry.
I saw your body
tense my microaggression.
And a ghost.
Yeah. But what it means to us is so much larger than that. It's not, and we don't hate men by any means. We love men. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in some factors, we love men.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, we do.
I mean, in general, we love people, and we want everybody to have a happy, fulfilling life. And what feminism really stands for, at least I'll speak for myself, and I believe you believe this too, is about everybody having that opportunity and that freedom to have the life that they want, and nobody telling them by their gender or their sexuality or the way they look can control that outcome is.
So well said. I completely agree. Yeah. And when I say, let me just track back. When I say, unfortunately, we love men, I'm saying my sexuality. That is something that is unfortunate from time to time in this
I
dating
saw something
climate.
online where they were like, I know that sexuality is not a choice because I would not choose to love men if it was. I thought that was funny.
I think it's accurate. Yeah. So it's one of those things. I want to touch on what you said. First of all, so well said. I completely co-sign with what you said. I think you're right. A lot of people hear feminism and they're so scared of the word and they equate that to anti-men. It's like, if you're pro-women or pro-feminism, you're anti-men.
Yeah.
And I want to set the record straight. Yeah, at least for us.
Absolutely.
You know? And I would say the feminist movement, like that is not a like...
Yeah.
Oh, it's blurred lines, like feminism means equality for all. Like it truly, that's the whole mission statement of feminism.
Yeah.
Is that a woman can stay at home,
and do all of those things. Like I personally, like, I love working, but I also would love to be like maybe a mom one day, or like I love taking care of my partner. I love like doing all of those things that are traditional, quote unquote, women duties, but I also want to have the ability to go out and pursue my dreams and not be stopped by certain things. And so like, I think that both of those sides of, and here's the other thing too, for all people, nobody's one thing. Everybody has levels and different wants and like different aspects to themselves. And I think that for so long, women were put into a box of like, this is what you are and who you can be. And that's what the movement was about, was breaking out of that box.
100% shattering the glass ceiling, so to speak. Well, I think let's take you, for example. Yes. You are so beautiful and gorgeous. Like someone could look at you and just be like, wow, what a beautiful woman. So, it's true. This is me loving
my best friend.
Yes. This is me loving on Ruth once again. But it's true. I just want to take you, for example, a very successful, independent young woman that is, she's young. Young woman that you do absolutely embrace that side of the femininity of like, when you're with Neil, when you're with a partner, like you are so doting, you're so considerate, and I've seen you in that action. And you were, like Susie Homemaker. You're like, whoa, holy shit, how does she spin all these plates? That's my joke about you all the time. It's like, how does she do that? And then like your mom, oh, I'm spoiling something. Never mind. Your mom was just talking to me the other day and was telling us about how she saw you on set and how you're such a badass and you're commanding the thing. And you are so independent. And the beautiful thing about that is I think both of those are representations of feminism or your feminist, or excuse me, your femininity.
Yeah.
Like the way you're able to tackle a big project like a music video and you're producing it and you're able to compartmentalize and dictate to people and delegate. Yeah. I think that is so feminine inherently. Like you're able to take a huge project, go, what do I need to do? How can I make people feel cared for? How can I make people feel taken care of? Yeah. And you're able to do that. And that is such a career heavy, independent, badass, you know, and I think that is screaming femininity. Oh. And then also you look at your home life and how you treat your partner and how you like cooking for him, how you like cleaning the house, how you like doing this.
I don't like cleaning the house.
Yeah.
I like a clean house.
I was just going to say it also can be equal. But, you know, you do like doing those things where you dote on him and you really are so what I think is the quintessential femininity.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think both of those, like, that's where I think feminism is. Like, that's the crux of it is, like, you can hold both of those ends of the stick and still be a feminist.
Feminism also says that men can do the same thing, too.
100%.
And that's where it is. There is no structure of, like, these guidelines of, like, oh, a man is supposed to be this and a woman is supposed to be this. Mm-hmm. It's anybody can do anything to help in any way and 100%. Be in any way.
Yeah. It is just more of a people issue. Like, I think it is, again, not your gender. Obviously, femininity is typically coincided with a woman. Yeah. But I think you're right. Like, femininity should be, like, and that's why we started Femtell All. Like, a lot of people think it's just because we're two women and we're like, we are the feminine, you know, but it's, we want to. So often we would see opinions of femininity being mistreated or not taken seriously as much as the masculine opinion. And again, that's not man versus woman. That's just like the approach of things. And we think that femininity is such a strength and like
and should be celebrated. And I think that's what this channel is about celebrating that strength and recognizing that it's not what has been displayed previously as a weakness. It is a strength. It is like, I'll even say, coming back to like producing, my producing partner is a man and he's very masculine in the way that he carries himself. And I think the balance between us on set is what makes it work too, because the way I approach a problem and he approaches it is different, but inherently they work together to make it the best solution.
I know. It's crazy. It's like, what a concept, right? We need both of these things, you know? And I think, again, when we're promoting femininity here on the podcast, we're not saying like, like, I fucking love masculine energy.
Yeah,
like,
I do too.
First of all, I feel like we dip into it sometimes personally.
Yeah.
We're like, don't fuck with us. But then also, like, when I'm with someone who is masculine, whether that be whoever, but I would say the most I experience it is with like romantic partners when they're like hyper mask. I'm like, like. But sometimes it's like, please put it away. Yeah. Like, you know, like, there are some, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's kind of a cheeky little joke, but I'm like, please just, we don't need to be like, at all times. Like, we don't need, it's okay. You can cry sometimes. So yeah, I think about that. And sorry, this thing keeps like popping in my head that I want to bring up. We watched How to Be Single a while ago. And it's a great movie, but there's one scene in particular that always sticks out to me that I love, where this man finds out that his girlfriend's pregnant. Oh, yeah. And he's like talking to her and she's like, what? Are you going to be a stay-at-home dad? And he goes, what? Did I just win the lottery? And he's so excited about it. He's like, are you kidding me? Me stay home with a baby all day? And I think about that was like one of the most like exciting pieces of media I had seen in a long time. And it's not that that's like a groundbreaking movie, but that scene specifically, I was like, I want more men feeling comfortable being like, I want to be a stay-at-home dad. I want to be someone that like dotes on you and does the laundry. I love laundry. You know, like I would love those kinds of things to be seen more, especially in media, because I think whatever we ingest
sets the tone, right?
Exactly.
I think you see that so much. Like, media has the power to say like, this is normal. And when we denormalize things, then it does make people feel like, oh, I can't be this way because society will view me a certain way.
100%.
Whereas like if we keep normalizing people like in those opposite characteristics or in those opposite stances, from like the decades and hundreds of years that it's been, like we start to create a new society and a new world where people have that freedom
100%.
and like they feel good about what they're doing. And then that's okay. Like it's okay to see a dad staying home and a mom working. It's okay to split chores at the house. It's okay to like do everything.
More than okay. It's encouraged.
It's encouraged.
Yeah. Well, I think also, I think the operative like phrase is like men are viewed less than if they're approaching their femininity, right? If the man is like, I'm a stay-at-home dad, he's viewed as less than. Yeah. And this opposite is the same for women that work and aren't like mothers, you know, like or are mothers but work too much. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, when you don't think about that, when a man is working, has this crazy job that he sees his family once a week, they're not like, oh, what a deadbeat dad. They're like, he's providing, you know? And it's, and I understand. I'm not saying that like a man that provides is something to be like shameful. Yeah. I think that is a very noble and very courageous thing.
But it is for a mother as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And like take the equality, like that's where the equality needs to enter the chat. Hi. You know, like I think if we're looking at a dad that works crazy hours and we're going like, wow, he really shows up for his family, you should be able to do the same for a woman who's working insane hours and guilt, vice versa. No guilt. And there's so much mom guilt. And I think,
oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, we talk about this all the time, but like I always see on social media, like just these negative comments, but I've even run across like mom content where like a mom's posting something and then you go to the comments section and they're like berating like, oh, like look at like that car seat, look how dirty it is, or look like, why would you do that? Like, oh, that's not what, but there's so many opinions floating out in this world. Like that's really what it is. There's so many opinions. Everybody wants their say in something in somebody else's life. And the truth of the fact is like you don't get that say. No. They get to say what they want their life to be. They get to say how they want to run their home, how they want to run their relationship or to raise their kids. Like it's not your job to tell people what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it should be the whole feminist movement is equality and we're giving equal opportunity to everybody. And making sure that people like, that's the funny thing.
And that's what's funny is like, that's what the essence of it is. And like, why are people hating
They're so scared of it.
They're so scared of women having their power.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I really think it boils down to. Like, why is there, and maybe it should be a compliment. Like that people are so scared that if women get their power and their independence, like anarchy is gonna happen.
Yeah, they're always like, what if she's a president and she's on her period and she sends out nukes? And you're like, Ruth, have you ever thought about sending out nukes every month that you're on?
No, not once.
Like fucking insane, dude. Anyway, but yeah, it is so strange, and I think it is a compliment in some ways, but it is one thing that sticks out to me too is a lot of the time I have a hard time, and I'm going to be real right now. It's not something I'm really proud of, but I have a hard time with patriotism in this country. I think it's very hard to feel very proud to be an American sometimes, especially with everything that's going on in the world, how much we're involved in, that you're like, we shouldn't be involved in this, and you're thinking about all the school shootings, and I digress, but there's so much that makes me really upset and ashamed to be an American sometimes. And I think about patriotism, and I think about the people that typically are like, go America, patriotism, you know, like we are freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of this. And I'm like, equality, not on the bill, you know, like it's like, wow, okay, you're so freedom of speech. Everyone has freedom to do exactly what they want, unless you feel uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And obviously there's lines, you know, like hate speech and stuff like that like I have a hard time. That's a moral thing that and I have conversations with my friends where it's like, where do we draw the line of like what is morally right? And like, we are a country of freedom of speech. So if someone's saying hate speech,
I guess the freedom of speech, even under the umbrella of hate speech, is like, sure, say it to yourself, say it in your small cluster, but when you take it online, where you're like, you have access to more people, hate, I think that's really where the line is, because if you live in podunk wherever, and like you have like these like ideals, and like you talk to the people around you and they're like, oh, me too, brother. Like that's not really affecting anybody on the masses. You're just in your own cluster and like your own like circle
ecosystem.
But like outside of that, like if you're going online, if you are a figure of some sort and you're doing it on television, or you're doing it to a audience that doesn't know how to like distinguish the difference, like that's the problem. That's why I even say with some of these social media channels or YouTube shows that have people spewing hate, and they say for them they might not even believe what they're saying, but they're doing it to gain followers or gain more of an audience and make more money, and they don't recognize the ripple effect that has on society, because the more you co-sign that and people that don't have the same brain as you watch this content and then change their thinking to align with yours, and then go out there and maybe talk that way to other people, or maybe even go even further than that and hurt people, like that's what you did
100%.
And so like that's where I think the line has to be drawn.
And like, trust me, I'm aware that we have a platform here. Like, we are spewing our own opinions on a podcast. However, that's where it's like, I'm gonna ask you, I don't think you've ever, because I know you have ever been on a TikTok video, Instagram video, podcast video, YouTube video, and commented like hate back or something like that. Me neither. I've never thought, even when I staunchly disagree with something.
Absolutely,
I've never been like, you know what, I'm going to tell them they're whores. You know, like, and you know, but really, and there is that, right? There's that comfortability. And so when that's what freedom of speech means to me, where it's like, we're allowed to have a podcast to say whatever. And we're like, hey, the sky is yellow today. And people are like, obviously it's not, you know, whatever. But like, if we're allowed to do that, have a platform that we are producing ourselves, doing, you know, and if you disagree with it and you don't like it, don't engage with it. You know, it's like, you don't have to, I'm like, block us. You know, I'm like, bye.
We would
like,
appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't need this, you know. No. And again, I think this ties into feminism, because I just feel like when I hear about the like liberal agenda of like the crazy feminist agenda, I'm like, what is so threatening about that? What do you think? Like, and I'm like, yes, of course, as everything goes, there's always a spectrum, and there's going to be people that consider themselves a feminist that are like, I'll kill a man. 100%. I'm not saying I will do that. God, no. But I'm saying there are people on that spectrum, 100%. And it's like, we are feminists, but we don't agree with that, you know? So there is always going to be a spectrum, but I'm like, maybe it's just not my algorithm, but I'm like, I'm not nearly as exposed to, not even in 10% of that kind of hyper feminism that is like anti-men, insert here. The thing that it's anti is anti-inequality. And like being equitable. You know, like,
absolutely.
So that's where I'm like, maybe I'm just not on the right channels, and 100%.
Or you are.
Well, I'm saying like, maybe I'm not exposed, like, and I will put that out there, but I'm just like, I want to have a conversation with people that are so scared of that.
I've never seen the extremities of that when it comes under the umbrella of like feminism. Like, again, like we know I love Gloria Steinem, and she was at the forefront of feminism and like that movement, and like, you see even the way that she speaks and like the way that she carries herself, and like, she's not talking like that, and this is like the godmother of like, you know, like
100%.
So like, if that does exist, I would have to assume the percentage of it is so small. Whereas like the larger group of people, including men that fall under them calling themselves a feminist, it is about equality. It is about like making sure that women are seen and heard, like, because like, that's like, if we're getting even deeper, like, there's been so long that like our voices weren't heard, and we are having to go back to fight, because like, we're seeing the reproductive rights being like come back at us. Like, men's rights are not being challenged right now. Ours are. And so like, what we're actually seeing is a digression of that. So like, this movement isn't done. And what we're fighting for is equality and also power of our own bodies. Like, there's so much that is like being still discarded when about a woman, like, that people think they can control her. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. You don't have to apologize for anything. It's horrendous.
It is. It's scary.
It's so scary to be 100% to be a woman, you know, and I think, it's one of those things that we live with it day in, day out. And
it's been normalized for us for so long too. Like, because when you live in a society or you live in a culture that this is just the way it is. This is how people view you. This is how people treat you. Like, you have to be that loud voice in a room that says, I don't accept this. I need to be heard. Or even, like, again, for both of us in the industries that we work in, like, it's sometimes hard to be in a room full of men and make sure your voice is heard. Because, like, I grew up being taught to be quiet and be nice and be polite. Whereas, like, I have to overcome that sometimes. And I'm learning more and more. I still fight the urge, but, like, luckily I have men around me that encourage my voice to be heard, but there's like some people that don't. And I'm learning more and more it matters. Like, I'm not saying something stupid. I'm not like like stepping my boundaries. Like, there is no boundary. Like, I get to say what I want to say. Yeah.
You have just as much right as they do.
Yeah.
You know, if it's like no one has the talking stick, then no one has the talking stick right now. But if everyone, you have every right. And also you have just as much weight, or you should, right? In those rooms. Like, even if you're the only woman. Yeah. And we talked to Steph about it, you know, you have just as much weight. Yeah. In the like conversation, in the decision making, in the pull that you have to make some moves, you know?
I have a question for you. Is there like a time period that you like remember thinking, oh, I'm a feminist, or like attributing that title to yourself, or like what was that kind of like? I don't know if there is one, because I can't actually think of a moment where it clicked for me, but like, do you feel like there was for you?
Yeah, I think I was probably introduced to the word in high school. Yeah, I want to say. And I think, you know, first of all, I love women. So like the first thing that was, I saw hair and I can't find it anymore. Okay. One of the things that, you know, anything that was feminine is something that I really enjoy, you know? So I was just like, what's that? You know? And then you're like, oh, it's equality for everyone, you know? And then you're like, oh, why do we need a word for that? Isn't that how it should be? And then you're like, oh, then you start being like, I am a feminist, right? And it's an identity, right? And I was so proud. It was like a fucking, you know, it's like cool kid on the block. It's like, I'm a feminist. You don't know what I mean?
Now.
Look it up, bitch. You know, like, yeah, I think there's like, I'm going to burn my bra. I'm going to be radical, you know? But I think, that came, and that I think that was also tied in with the marriage equality movement too. That was in high school for me. So, but I'm just, you know, it was one of those things that I think that politically.
Actually, what a cool experience to be in high school and like see that time period.
It was very cool.
That's really cool.
I did a full term paper on it in my one of my English classes.
I love that.
Yeah, because I was like, this is fucking bonkers, you know, and that it's, thank God it's not like something that we as not front of mind as much anymore, but it is sometimes when the reproductive rights, because it's like, if you're coming for reproductive rights, they're coming for marriage rights. Yeah. If they're coming for marriage rights, what else are they going to, you know, it's like, so yeah, all of that to say, I think that's when feminism really started. Like, I started feeling feminist, you know, I started feeling that as an identity and as a coat that I wear that is like, I carry it with me always. And that's really beautiful. I think it was, and I think I would have, whether I would have known the word feminism at that time or not, like, I think at that age, it's such a pinnacle age where you're starting to, I think you're in some ways starting to get recognized for your looks. And it's not like it's a playing field that's not leveled now. And you're starting to be like, oh, that girl gets way more attention in my English class than I do. Yeah. And I'm like, she's got boobs. Whoa. Where did that come from? Yeah. And it's like, you're starting to do that and you're like, oh, wow. Like, she has quote unquote more value, like in the like ecosystem, you know, where you're like, oh, she's the popular girl. Yeah. And it's because of how she looks. And you start equating that to like, oh, well, now I have to wear makeup now every day. Now I have to do this because if I look better, then I'm valued more. Yeah. And I think we start making those associations in our mind, whether we like it or not. And it's subconscious and conscious sometimes. And I think that was high school for me, or middle school into high school. So
sorry, another question.
No, please.
So I would ask then also, like, being a feminist and like working your way through this world, is there anything like that stands out to you that like, yeah, I find myself doing this more because I equate with myself with this title?
Yeah, I mean, like small things, like you're talking about like how I show microfeminism.
Yeah.
Okay. We just watched a video on microfeminism, and it was small ways that you can show it and express it in your daily. I think at my job a lot.
Yeah.
I think anytime a woman says something and it's not heard, I go like, "What did you say?"
Oh,
It's stuff
really
like that.
good.
I'll be like, "Wait, Ruth was just saying, what did you say, Ruth?" And then as a property manager too, when I tour with heterosexual couples, I always talk to the woman first. Sorry, but I do. I'm like,
I like that.
What do you do? Like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, oh, I don't know who's going to be the main applicant on this. Like, I don't assume it's the man. And it's funny. I had 2 couples move into my building semi-recently, and I kept messaging the women, and then the men would message me and be like, hey, ball, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can talk to them. I'm like, sure. Are you in charge of the household? Cool. Like, then I'll talk to you. But, and that's where it's like sometimes I wasn't going to them for the things that I feel like are typical women burdens. Like, oh, are you guys gonna clean up? It's not stuff like that. It was more like who's gonna be making the most money. Yeah. Like who has the best credit, those things. Yeah. I just want to make that distinction clear. It's not like, oh, you run the household because you're the woman. It's more like, hey, like you might have a better job than your boyfriend, fiance, husband at this point, and rock on. Like there's nothing wrong with that for either of you.
No,
like
not at all.
It's a partnership. So yeah, I think those are the ways that I feel like I see it the most in my day to day. What about you?
I think the reason the question came, I remember one of my friends was telling me a story, and then I instantly started defending the girl, and he was like, calm down. Like literally, he's like, too. I know you're a feminist, but like I think that we both do. Like I'm instantly on the side of the woman, like innocent until proven guilty. Like tell me the fact because I think she's right. Like,
no, actually, they're like, she cheated on him. I'm like she had a good reason. No, God, no. We're joking. We don't condone cheating, but I do agree with you. I'm like, well, why did she act that way?
Yeah.
I'm like, especially when you're dating a guy and they're like, yeah, my ex is crazy. I'm like, what happened? What'd she do? What'd you do?
What'd you drive her crazy with?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't think it's that black and white.
No, it never is. That's also for me. I think I said this on past episodes, but if a guy says every one of his exes is crazy,
run.
Who's the common factor?
Run. Yeah. For your life. Yeah, I think that's one way. Yeah. So if a story you're
I
on
feel
the
like I'm
side.
instantly on a woman's side. Like I think there was even like I'm thinking of a story right now. I won't tell like the details to it because it's like work related, but like there was somebody that I was told about and I instantly was on their side, and then I got more details and I realized that they were in the wrong. But it took a lot for me to switch, and I think that the reason I do that is because I think for so often it was believed instantly like whatever the man would say was fact. Yeah, and Bible. But like now it's like I want to be that protector and help him in that way to again, I think it's just about being heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. There's an like advocating for yourself and other women.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. And sometimes it's like so sad when you're like, girl, really?
Like why?
But I think that's feminist in itself of being like, no, she was wrong.
Yeah.
She was 100% wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's also being able to go to them and be like, hey, this is how you can grow. Like maybe you shouldn't cheat on people.
Yeah. I don't know. Just a thought. I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like going through it. My mind is like, where do you feel like you're treated the most, like as a feminist? Like, where do you feel like people's actions to you make you feel equal to others?
When I'm with my girlfriends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's where I feel the most safe and most held. But like, I mean, like I won't say strictly that. Like I have a lot of guy friends in my life, and of course my partner too, like that I feel like treat me well. But like, I think I feel the most like leveled when I'm with my girlfriends that are like you. Like I have a good group of core girlfriends that like, they hear me, they listen to me. Like we have these kind of conversations, and like my intelligence is seen, I think, before before anything else.
Yeah.
What about
Because
you?
obviously we're like complimenting your cute ass outfit, but like that's not why we're getting dinner with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're getting dinner with you.
Because I want to have the conversation. I want to go deeper and like
we want your opinion on
yeah,
things.
exactly.
Yeah. That's a really
I actually love when people call me and they're dealing with something and they genuinely feel like I can help in some way. Like that feels good to me.
You're extremely helpful.
Thank you.
No, it's true. I mean, I get why people would be like, oh, Ruth. Because that's your opinion is valued, right? Like I think that's that through line for you of like people trust and respect your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think it's the same vein of that. Like, there's some ways this is making me giggle. Last night I was at Whole Foods on a Saturday night.
As one does.
Saturday
Saturday
night. She was at Whole Foods by herself. And I was at Whole Foods, and it was like late. It was like before they closed. I was just like grabbing a couple things, and I'm in there, and I can't find the rice. I'm like, where's the rice? Like, and I ask a woman, because obviously I'm like, I would have asked anyone, but she was close to me, and I was like, I trust her. Automatically, I trust her. It's dark. I trust her. And I was like, hi, excuse me, do you know where the rice is? And she was like, I think it's that aisle, but let me check. And she like kind of peeks in. She goes, hold on, stay right here. And I was like, okay. And she like starts running, and she goes to ask someone, and she runs back. She goes, you're too pretty to be walking around the aisles.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, stop it. And at first I was like, too pretty to walk around the aisles. What does that mean? You know?
Is it also true?
I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. But yeah, I think that's like kind of a version of feminism, even though it was like to my looks, which I was like, what does that mean? Too pretty.
But also, I feel like I think this is a part of feminism as well, because I think that for so long it's been competition against women that like I actually really enjoy when I see
she complimented.
I love that, and I feel that we both do that as well to other women, and I think that it feels more genuine when it's coming from a woman too, and like just knowing like instantly, oh, this woman isn't competitive with me. She like is. Yeah.
Yes. No, and we have to do that. Like I anytime I think of a nice thought, like if someone I come across with, whether that's a guy, person, woman, you know, I'm like, if I think of a compliment, I'm going to tell them usually. And I feel like sometimes I embarrass my like friends and family because I'm like talking to strangers all the time. But I feel like it's such when
you're
you
never
get
embarrassing me though. When you just so you know.
But I think you have that too. You're really good at like complimenting people in person and like being so kind and like leading with kindness. And I think that is a really feminine thing. And I think you're so right to point out that this woman didn't take it as like a threat. She wanted to use that opportunity to give me a very sweet compliment and also like treat me well too. She was like, girl, don't worry those pretty little heels. You know? And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm fully capable of walking through the aisles, but she was so nice to say that. And I think about when we went to Barbie, I went to Barbie with Will and Noah, and we sat next to a woman, and we sat down, and I was already in the like feminist agenda, like, you know, I was like, we're watching Barbie, you know? And this girl I sit down, and she's by herself, and she's sitting there eating popcorn, and she just goes, you smell so good. And I was like, oh my God, really? And she was like, yeah. I go, well, I just put on this perfume. I never wear it here. And I gave it to her because I had it in my purse.
That is so sweet.
And she was like, are you sure? Well, and I was like, yeah, I barely use it. I was like, and you like it, so take it. But I was like, I'm not patting myself on the back. No, thank you. That's very sweet. But I'm just like, it's more things like that where I try to do that actively. And again, it's the same thing. Like we've gotten stopped before for like what we're wearing. And both of you and I are like, let me give you the link. You know, I think that is core feminism. you know, it's like even my girlfriends, all my girlfriends, like there's no gatekeeping.
Yeah,
Like, and
no.
I think the true girlies don't gatekeep.
Yeah.
And again, this is more of a trivial version of feminism, but
the fun part.
It's the fun part, but it is. It's like if a girl is like, oh my God, what nail color? And you're like, 808, baby pink, OPI, you know, and you're like, are they speaking English?
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that's so beautiful about feminism.
Womanhood,
yeah,
too.
womanhood,
Yeah.
specifically womanhood,
Yeah.
girlhood. And yeah, I just want to promote more of that. And I know that I feel so warm and fuzzy if I like, and there's been times when I compliment someone on something and I want the link or I want the, you know, and I'm like, oh God, I hope they're not weird about it, you know, because sometimes people are a little gatekeepy. And there's a lovely woman named Nada that's in my friend group, that the whole international friend group that I hang out with. And she's so stylish all the time. She's like a micro influencer, stylist and influencer. And she wore a hat on this trip that we just went on. Yeah. And then she posted a picture with this hat. And I was like, these hats are popping off so hard. And I literally was like, I'm gonna message her. And I was like, I'm friends with her. Aww. And I was worried about messaging her because I was like, I didn't want her to feel like she has to give me the link and that now I'm copying her because I like her hats, you know, and I felt weird about it at first, but I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. She couldn't have been nicer. And I should have known that. She's always nice. She's always so kind and lovely about that kind of stuff. But because I see her as this like more stylish than me, I like put her on a little pedestal of like she's way more stylish and cool than me. Like I can't ask her for the link.
Impossible. By the
no,
way.
But it's you know, it's like it's funny we do that, you know, and it's like even when you ask, like I think that girl was shocked when she was like, you smell so good, and I was like, here, you know, because like I think she thought like she would never know what that smell was. She was just trying to pay me a compliment. Yeah. Now she gets a free fucking perfume. I'm like, walk free, baby, you got it. Aww. But and Nada did the same thing. Like Nada was like, oh my God, these are the links. It's a great company. Look them up. I already bought hat. Ooh, I hope my mom doesn't listen to this. I bought my mom a Mother's Day hat. So I'm like, that was
now I want to see this link. You might have to actually put the link in this
We're
episode.
putting the links in the description of the episode. But I think that again, I digress. I've gone a little far off, but I'm saying that's a version of feminism that I hold so near and dear. And I feel like that is an everyday form of feminism, of like supporting your fellow person. And specifically if you are able to support women, and not make it a competition, not make it this weird fucking elitist thing. Like I think so often the antithesis of feminism is to pin women against each other. Yeah. And I think to actively go against that and actively be like, no, these are my people. Yeah. I'm going to treat everyone with equality. I'm going to treat everyone sweetly and kindly. That's like the epitome of feminism to
agree.
me.
I completely agree. My next question would be what can men do to help in supporting women in feminism, or just feminism in totality?
It's a great question. I think men can just make a safe space for women. Yep. That's probably the thing that comes front of mind. Yeah. And in this video that we were referencing a little earlier on the episode, of like micro feminism is like, I think men even when I'm walking in my neighborhood, when I see the man cross the street, and I'm like, maybe he did that for me, maybe he didn't. But that makes me feel more comfortable. Yeah. And they're always being like, not weird, not shady, like when you're pumping gas. Like there's so many, sorry. It's okay. But there's so many times where we are put in situations, specifically women, but all people, that are put in situations with maybe a man that they don't know who that man is. And so they don't know the intentions of the man. And unfortunately, it's not just a like neutrality thing. It's typically like leans more towards like, I could be in danger. So I'm going to be on alert, not high alert, but I'm going to have my wits about me. And I think men just making sure that is always, if they have any control of the like temperature of the room, they make sure that they take that to heart, and they make sure that they make women feel comfortable. So I think making a safe space, and there's so like, again, like crossing the street when you see a woman, or like I've seen if a guy's walking behind me, if he was like, and he got a little close and he sees my look, because all the girls do it, they're like, What the fuck?
I hear your feet
so close to
steps.
me.
Yeah.
And I think if he was like, so sorry, I'm just getting around you.
Yeah.
Like if a guy said that, if he was trying to like pass me and he was like running up on me and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh God, why is he getting so close? And if he just said like, so sorry, I'm trying to pass you. So sorry, like in the grocery store, something like that. I think that is so helpful.
Yeah.
I think also like the ways that we were talking about specifically in professional or male-led scenarios, groups, communities, I think always making sure that you take the time to also uplift a woman's voice, a person's voice, a non-binary person's voice to the level that the men are being taken seriously. I think that is something that is huge. And just being like, you don't have to be like, there's never a time that like women, you know, it's not like you have to be like, are all the women talking? You know, like you don't have to make a spectacle about it. But I think going about it in a way of like, oh, Ruth, what were you saying?
Yeah.
Or if someone, like if Ruth has an opinion, I feel like this happens a lot in corporate world where you'll say an opinion and then the man will
repeat it back
and everyone's
get the
like, John, whoa, what a idea, buddy.
Yeah.
And I think if you clock that as another man,
Yeah.
or if you're John, right, and you're like, no, Ruth said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Giving credit where it's due.
Yeah.
Like I think that is a huge
absolutely
form of feminism.
I feel like honestly like that happens a lot, like more than it's even recognized. And I don't know if I don't know what that is actually, because I feel like it happens to me sometimes too, where I'm like, wait, I just said that.
Yes.
Or I said it previously and it's not like I'm not getting the credit for, not that I have to have it, but it just feels good if you do.
No, you deserve the credit.
Yeah.
If people are applauding the thing, you deserve the applause if it was your idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, I think we should all take a water break. Wow, Ruth. You know, like you don't, it's not like if you're not doing anything earth shattering, that is equality. Like you shouldn't be like put on a pedestal because you said something. Like that is, again, that's not what we're fighting for.
Completely.
But if you're doing something that's applaud worthy that they're applauding a man for,
then
you
give
deserve
credit where it's
exactly,
due. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. I also think like I think that when we're in the midst of change, which I hope and I believe that we are.
The mist of change. That's so beautiful. I'm like, oh my God. Sorry, continue.
But I always think that like, and I think actually a therapist told me this, but like when change has to happen, it's like a pendulum. It has to go extreme the other way.
It has to overcorrect.
It has to overcorrect. And so like if you are a man and you're working in an environment like that and you see something like happen, like maybe you do have to go a little bit more extreme, like not to embarrassment, but like if you're on a team and there's one or two women amongst a group of however other many men, like make sure that they're heard. Like make sure you call them to the front. Like make sure like you ask them the questions first and give them the space to speak.
Yeah.
And listen.
Yeah. Is this your answer? Because I was gonna like revert
it back to me. Yeah. I mean, like, definitely think that for sure that's what I would say to men.
Yeah.
I agree totally too with like, if you are aware of a woman feeling unsafe, like giving her the space and verbalizing, like, and making sure like you just step to the other side of the street or whatever that is. But yeah, like, I think it's more so like when we talk about just giving a safe space and a place for women to be heard and seen, like make sure you create that space for them. Like it's not just like agreeing with that. If you're in a place where you can give that to somebody, like that's your job to do.
Yeah. And I would say, and I want your opinion on this, I would even go one further. And I think it's more important to do this with your fellow men and talk about women in this way with your fellow men.
Amen.
And then actually do it with the women in the room. Like obviously that's first and foremost is the safety of everyone that's involved. Again, people, not just women, but making sure that you're creating a safe space. Like if you're the top of the food chain, so to speak, right? If we treat you like that, then recognizing that I'm the apex predator, you know? So sorry guys, you know, like I think having an awareness of that and controlling how you not only communicate, but your body movements, things like that is where it's not like, I've had guys that don't know they're being scary and they're being terrifying. Like, I remember being, I was at a Trader Joe's. I might have mentioned this on another episode. I don't know. But I was at a Trader Joe's and I was in my car and a car was backing up. So a woman that was walking by stood right next, like she had to get out of the way. So I'm like, my trunk is open. I'm exposed. I'm like at my car. And this woman like scoots her cart right next. And she's like, here. She's very close to
Yeah.
me. And I kind of look at her like, why are you so close? You know? And she goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I laugh and I go, it's okay. You're not a man. and she laughed. She goes, oh my God, right? And I was like, it would have been way more terrifying if you were a man.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. She was like, I was just at a gas station the other day and this guy was so close to me. And I said, like, do you mind giving me some space? And he didn't understand. He was offended that I asked him.
What?
And I'm like, yeah, I get, like, if you're like, oh, I really wasn't trying to offend you. But I'm like, sometimes you just have to be like, oh, I'm twice her size. Even if I'm non-threatening at all, I might make her still feel threatened for no reason. Like, I didn't give her a reason other than my existence. But unfortunately, that is enough of a something to make her
I
worried.
wouldn't even be offended if I was near a woman and she said that, could you step back? Like, I'd be, like, that's a preference.
Yeah,
like, if you feel uncomfortable,
like,
you
so
feel
sorry.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'd have been like, my God. Literally, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But yeah, all of this to say, I do think it's just, I think it's more important, honestly, to, in your group of male friends, men friends, that are... When something comes up where it easily is going a little misogynistic, it's going a little, you're only viewing women as a trophy to win. If you're only talking about women from just their physical outlook, things like that, I encourage you to challenge yourself to bring up something.
Do the opposition.
Yeah, trying to be like, well, and is she smart?
Yeah.
You know, like if you're like,
use different
yo,
adjectives.
dude, look at this girl that I'm seeing,
Yeah.
you know, and then they're like, oh, dude, is she funny?
Yeah.
You know, like I think that would go, you might look like a dork or whatever. You might look weird to your friends. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But hopefully it like gets you out of that like fog of what we're like so accustomed to. We're so used to just like being like, yeah, this hot chick I'm banging, blah, blah, blah. I know it's not always like that. I'm not trying to like lump that men all into that category. But I do think that there is a healthy dose of that. Like when you're with the boys, when you're with your guy friends, you feel a little more like you have to turn on the masculine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen boyfriends do it. I've seen boyfriends that are like so baby in front of me. You know, they're so like, hey, can we put on a face mask? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then they get in front of a guy and they're like, oh, 69. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Did a switch happen in your brain? You know? Yeah. I'm monologuing a little, but I think that is something that I would encourage men to do. How do you feel about men, like ways men could encourage other men to help women or help feminism in general?
I think it's having more of a discussion. I think that it is the way that you speak and present and carry yourself when you speak about women to your friends. But I think it's also like being open to having the conversation about things that are affecting women in this world, whether that's like the reproductive rights right now, or if like, even if you maybe have like a new like mom at home and your wife just had a child or your partner just had a child and like supporting her, like talking, because I've heard stories even about the way men talk about their wives that have just had a baby, and like it's just like I get humor and I get like joking around with your friends, but I think it's just changing the narrative a little bit to start coloring in women, especially the women in your life, differently to the men in your life.
100%. Yeah. And in the instance that your friends had a baby, your friend and their wife have had a baby, you should be talking to him just as much about the baby as you are. If you're talking about sleeping patterns to the wife, you should be talking to the husband. Are you getting sleep or what's going on? It should be equal opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah.
I did want to say there's this book that I read called For the Love of Men by Liz Plank. I love this book. She's all over the internet. I feel like she's on TikTok. She's a co-host on Man Enough, the podcast. And she's wonderful. And I think I had to remind myself of this while we're in this episode of like, unfortunately, feminism so often too is like the men need to work on this. But women need to work, people need to work on this in general. And I think having an acute awareness to the system that we are in, to the patriarchy that we are in, and how that is not built for anyone. It's not sustainable. And I think obviously men benefit from it, but they are also pigeonholed because of it. And I think I would just recommend, if anyone hasn't read that book, I loved that book. It really turned my eye on feminism too. Yeah. I read that in, I think, like 2020 or 2020.
It was a while back.
Yeah.
I remember when you were reading it, you told me
and I was like, this is life changing.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like earth shattering as far as like new information, but it's a reframe. It's going Reminders, at it because and I think it's like, if we want to be completely equal with our counterparts, if we want to feel like fully valued, we also have to make a safe space for like men, so to speak. Absolutely. You know, I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but
no, absolutely, it is true, because the safe space is like saying like if a guy does say something like, and then is he going to be made fun of for it? Like there should be a safe space for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And promoting femininity coming through anyone.
Yeah.
Like femininity should be seen as a beautiful thing. It's a strength. It's a huge strength. Yeah. And I'm not saying like let femininity take over the masculine. Like,
no, because there's great things about masculine
it has
too.
To balance
it
out.
Does. They work together. It's the yin and the yang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our 2 cents on femininity.
Well, tell us what your thoughts are. We would love to hear how you feel as a feminist, or how you support feminism, or like what your viewpoint of it is. Like, I think the great thing about feminism is there's a lot of coloring here. Like it's not one or the other. Our opinions don't mean that if you think outside of this that you aren't a feminist. It just means this is what our part is of like how we feel we fit into this framing. But we thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and we'll see you next week on FemTell All.
Thanks, guys. Bye.